Good evening. It's 7 o'clock, and I would like to call the Attleboro Municipal Council Rules and Procedures Committee to order. Sitting on this committee is Laura Dolan and Kathleen DeSimone and myself. The purpose of our meeting tonight is to discuss the final edits to the Rules and Procedure Municipal Council draft. Its final edition was a 2020 edition. We'll update that to 2021. And the only issue that we really need to deal with tonight is the conditions under which 940 CMR remote participation will be allowed by municipal councils in the future. I'll call to your attention the fact that an exchange between Council President Mark Cooper and City Solicitor Cindy Amara over the last week resulted in the fact that the council does not need to approve 940 CMR. It is a directive by the mayor as chief executive officer, as defined in the law, who authorizes remote participation in accordance with the requirements of 940 CMR 29.10 that makes it ubiquitous across all boards and all commissions, including the school district in the city to adopt 940 CMR. Now, that includes the enforcement actions and the remote participation criteria and the meeting minutes requirements. And in 940 CMR, in section 29.10, paragraph 1 preamble, in the second sentence, the CMR states, and I quote, "However, the Attorney General strongly encourages members of public bodies to physically attend meetings whenever possible, period." So we should, and I'll put it in the form of a motion, I move that the municipal council attend meetings whenever possible, however, if out of town on business requirements, be allowed to participate remotely in accord with 940 CMR.
Councilor Conti, if I may.
Yes.
So the rules 2910 subparagraph 5 and 7 to some degree suggest the situations under which remote participation may be warranted. Specifically, subparagraph 5 refers to the fact that physical attendance would be unreasonably difficult. And then subsection 7 lists the requirements of a member who may be making such a request. But I would suggest to you that our language should be consistent with the language and the regulation itself. So unreasonably difficult allows for several situations: illness, travel, et cetera, et cetera. I'm not quite sure, although I have seen places who have identified certain examples of that. But I suggest respectfully, you may want to phrase it such as unreasonably difficult, and list examples, if you will, but perhaps not define, because there could be situations that we don't account for that come up. Is this making sense?
Yes.
We don't limit it, but we give examples. And then, of course, it would be up to the president or the presiding officer to identify whether or not a particular situation is unreasonable, would make it unreasonably difficult to participate. Is that making sense?
Makes perfect sense. And since my motion didn't get seconded, it
Yeah.
died on the floor. So remote, so I'm putting together another one.
I'm sorry, Council Conti.
I
No,
didn't
no, don't
intentionally not
apologize.
second it.
It's very constructive, Councilor DeSimone.
And if I may further, because I've been over this several times after last week's meeting, because I was second guessing myself, and I went over it several times. And you're right, the Attorney General makes very clear that the priority and the default is in-person participation in alignment in the spirit of open meetings law, so that this is used sparingly, right, reasonably, not taken advantage of. And the language that I wrote in our proposed rules, I took the exact language out of 2910. But what I did not state, and maybe we could add to section, I'm referring to section 3-5.4. We could make a statement there, Council Conti, because I think you made a good point. Kind of like a little statement that says exactly what as much as possible, counselors should be physically present at hearings. Like, that's the default. That's where you start. We could borrow some of that language from the preamble and make kind of a mini preamble in our rules there, and then list the procedures after that.
Well, I'm looking to see where in our rules and procedures this would slide in.
It's 3-5.
It'd have to be section 3, yeah.
Yeah,
page
3-5.4.
4.
Yeah. I mean, we are subject, by virtue of the mayor's authorization, we are, of course, subject to all provisions of 2910, and it is in there. But in case members don't actually read 2910, we could just put that language exactly in our rules and say, council members are strongly encouraged to physically attend meetings wherever possible, in the spirit of open meetings, blah, blah, blah. Just a thought.
Would we put it in 3-5.4 or 3-5.5? Like minimum requirements?
Well, once again, we've had so many additions of the rules and procedures
Yeah.
that the one I'm looking at doesn't have a 3.5.
Oh, well, that may be on me, Council Conti. I apologize. There have been several versions.
They sure have.
And some of that was my error. I didn't account for word. Anyway, blah, blah, blah. What I'm looking at, and I can try to email it to you, is what I referred to as the no markup vision of September 29th. And the remote participation procedures are all in there. So if you give me a minute, I can find it in.
Yeah, I'm doing the same thing. So you go hunting for yours and I'll go hunting for mine together.
Okay.
We should be able to find.
Well, I can, I'll find the email that I sent to Virginia to send it out most recently.
So in my rules and procedures, I've got a December, let's see, the last revised edition that I have in 2020 was November 4th, 2020. It was titled 2020 Draft 11-420 Rules of Procedure. That superseded version 4 and version 3.4.2.
So you're
And
saying
that one doesn't have a 3-5.5 on yours?
I'm opening it up now and taking a look at it.
Yeah. It's on page 10 of 27 in my version. Laura, does that align with what you're
Yep.
saying? Okay.
Page 10. Mine, this one, I have a couple here too. And I wanted to make sure I had them all just in case.
Yeah,
This draft, one of the drafts that I have in front of me that does have 3-5.5 is dated 9/29/20, and it says the word clean on it.
that's what I have. Yes.
I'm sorry, Laura, I didn't hear you.
The one I have, it's the date on it is 9/29/20.
Okay, so there was a draft revision following that. You're looking at, Laura, you're looking at version 3.4.2. Following that in October was version 4, and that was the major overwrite. And then I think Kathleen renumbered everything, and we came up with, let me just, with this 2020 draft 11-4-20. So I'm trying to scroll down to find 3.5.
I also have something dated 10/6.
Yeah. So in this edition,
Yeah.
the draft revisions of the Attleboro Municipal Council Rules of Procedures dated November 4th, there is a section 5, remote participation of a member. Do you have that, Laura?
Hold on. You said section 5?
Yes, it's on page 10 of 27.
You mean that I have that as section 3?
It is section 3.
Oh,
But
3-5.
it's Article 3.
But it's right.
It's Article
3.
3, Section
Yes.
5.
Yes.
Yes, I have that.
You have that. So it says 3.3-5.1, pursuant to the mayor's adoption of 940
Yep.
CMR 2910, and
Yes.
subject to the requirements and limitations set forth below, remote
Yeah.
participation of a member meeting
Right.
may be permitted.
And I also, so I have this like one sheet, and of course it's printed, so I have no idea where it came from, that I wrote 10/6/20 on, and it looks almost like just like a little addendum. Suggested next steps, list and
Yes.
explanation of current proposed changes.
Yes. That's mine. I read that I presented that at an earlier meeting about where we were and where we needed to go.
So Council DeSimone, do you have any issues with this Article 3, Section 5?
Do I have any issues with it? No. So remote participation of a member is exactly what we're talking about.
Yes.
I would, however, change adoption to authorization to be in line with the actual language from the CMR. But no, this is exactly what we're talking about. But oh, you know what? Wait a minute. Oh, I do have it. Look at 3-5.2.
Yes.
I put that remote participation should be the rare exception, not the rule, and requires prior notification. So I did. I also have 3-5.3 that gives some examples of what may be unreasonably difficult. I'm forgive me. It's been a long time.
Right. Exactly. But I think this is fine.
Yeah, I think we've already done it. I may suggest, though, if you look at 3-5.1 where it says adoption, I believe the correct word, and forgive me, I should be authorization, because that's what
Yes.
that's what the CMR says the mayor does. The mayor
Yes.
authorizes, does not adopt. So
I'll change that word.
thank you. Sorry, folks, I didn't look at my own language.
It's
there.
been a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's the problem when you have
Yeah.
something that's been around this long,
Yeah.
crack.
So pursuant to the mayor's authorization of 940 CMR
Exactly.
2910,
Yep.
and subject to the requirements and limitations set forth below, remote participation of a member in municipal council may be permitted.
Yep.
Doesn't say it shall be permitted, it says it may be permitted.
Right.
I like this.
I tried to parallel the language of the regulation as much as possible because we don't want to run afoul of the open meetings law, of course. So
Right.
it should be pretty aligned with what's there.
And I think the 3-5.3, I think, it says difficulties include but not limited to, because
Yeah.
clearly, you could have a funeral on a Tuesday in, wherever, Utah, but it's in the morning, you're still
Yeah.
going to be in Utah, and it's an important meeting you don't want to miss. So I think we cover the basis. I mean,
Right,
clearly we're all adults and we shouldn't abuse it,
right,
you know?
right. All right. That's why I don't think we want to define. I think we want to give examples because who the heck knows what life is going to throw at somebody. So,
Yeah.
um,
All right,
And
so
I-
I'm renaming this document 2021 draft
yeah,
rules of procedure. It'll be the only 21 draft rules of procedure
yeah.
out there, and I will circulate this to all counselors.
Yeah. And here's what the error I made, Councilor Conti. When I sent the Word document, I failed to appreciate that the document was tracking changes.
Yep.
And came across as a gigantic mess
Yep.
because of the substantial changes we've made. So I was going to propose when we make our final changes or what's final in committee, perhaps sending it as a PDF
Yep.
might avoid some confusion. And I wish I had done that originally.
And I think I'll take the draft watermark out of it.
Yep, that's fine. And I respectfully say maybe send it as a PDF and you won't run into the problems that I caused when people opened it up and said, what the heck is this? Because
Yep.
tracking changes
Yep.
is a mess.
Yep.
Always give Kathleen a PDF.
Thank you. But may I ask, while we're here, Councilor Conti, are there other subjects on the table for discussion this evening?
No.
Oh, solely this. Okay. Fair enough.
I knew it would be a short meeting.
Okay. All right.
And so that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to remove the draft. I changed that one word.
Yep.
I'm going to convert it to a PDF right now, send it to Virginia in the morning, right now to Virginia, and ask her to distribute it to all counselors.
We didn't have any other changes pending, did we, Kathleen? Is that why you're asking?
Well, I just wanted, did any chairs ever report back, Councilor Conti, about?
No.
Okay. I did omit the word veterans from Council Waterman's committee.
Okay. Well, wherever that is, I will put
Yeah.
that back in.
I did omit that. So,
Standing
wanted-
committees in Article 7,
yeah,
page
that was
18.
it. And then I had a couple of other things, but I can do it on the floor. It's nothing we need to get into tonight.
Well, it's in there, Veterans and Human Services.
It is in there, Rick?
Yeah, 7-1.7, Committee on Personnel, Veterans and Human Services. This is better than we thought.
Let me see. Hang on. Okay.
Page
then
20, bottom of page 20.
See, I have Committee on Personnel and Human Services. So,
Okay. So,
Why?
Jesus, sorry.
yeah, I must have changed that on my own. Yep,
Okay.
sorry.
Good. Well, thank you for catching that. Yeah.
Yep. And I think I'll add well, no, there's only one 2021 version. So I'm going to take out the header that says draft revisions of the Attleboro Municipal Council Rules and Procedures.
Yep.
I'm going to take that out.
I just really want to make sure we all get the same version to avoid any further confusion.
Yep.
So, Rick, may I ask, the document that you have in front of you, is it 27 pages?
Yes.
Okay, with, there's the appendixed materials that should be attached to the, I think
Appendix 27, commonly used motions and parliamentary procedures.
Yep, okay. Okay, all right. Okay. Phew. All right, well.
That I think that appendix.
Yeah.
I produced that separately.
Yes, I sent it separately.
Because it didn't fit the format.
Yep.
And
yes, so I didn't, and I'm not the most technically savvy person. So yes, I had to send it separately because I couldn't figure out how to get it into the document.
Yeah, it's
But
a big giant chart.
yeah, and we don't have to use it. I mean, presumably members have the
book.
yes, the book that we're referring to. This was just kind of a little shortcut cheat sheet, but it certainly does not have to be there if people have the book available.
Well, I can't find it now. I can't find my chart. Or maybe it's here, AMC Motions. Let me see what that looks. Yep, I found it. I got it.
Okay.
And it's one page.
Yeah, two-sided.
Yep. No, it's one page all.
Oh, because I had a. Okay.
I just got to figure out how I can get this landscape
Yeah, it didn't really work
document. It doesn't easily convert.
Yep.
So maybe I'll send out 2 documents that, until we figure out how to.
Yeah, my
use them
apologies for
with-
that.
Yep. Okay.
I don't see an issue with sending out 2.
Yeah.
I mean, I can play with it if you want me to. I can basically just, I guess, redo it. I don't know how. It's so silly that I don't know how to do it. I don't.
Well, maybe I can add it as page 28. That's what I'm going to try to do,
Okay.
Kathleen. And if I can't, I'll just send them out as 2
Yeah.
different documents.
Okay.
And I think we're there.
All right. So you're going to remove the draft, take out the language, remove the draft watermark, take out the draft revision on the page 1, change it to 2021 edition.
Yep.
Change adoption to authorization.
Yep.
And then make sure veterans is in everybody's final version. And that's it for this particular meeting.
It is. That's it.
Okay.
Anything else, Councilor Dolan?
I don't think so. I'm getting a sense that Councilor DeSimone feels disappointed that we're not discussing something else.
Well, can I run a couple of things by you
Absolutely. Yes. That's why we're here.
that are outside the scope of the CMR?
Yeah.
Can I run it?
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm going to use the new counselor excuse for these things. So tell me if I'm completely off track. A couple of ideas that I had that occurred to me after I produced this document. Some are pretty trivial. So procedurally, sometimes the counselors will, when they're presenting either their motions before the council, they'll make before or after they'll make general announcements about this and that, things not pertinent to their council committee business.
Yes.
Some bodies, as you may know, Rick, have a separate part of the meeting for those very kind of announcements. So it comes at the end and the chair would say, does anybody have any announcements? And you could say, well, there's a blood drive, there's a clothing drive, and that's at the end. It's not, so a small thing, just a thought, because sometimes they're kind of, I don't know. Just a thought. Some groups do it that way. I think it would be.
I understand what you're saying. Because I'm interpreting things you're not saying because you're being polite.
I think it would be cleaner at the end.
Yes. So
it's small though.
Did you do the language for it, Kath?
No, I did not. We would have to change on the part where it talks about the order of the meeting. I did not, Laura.
Rules, Article 2.
Order of business and docket, page 14. And again, I did a little research and I've seen other bodies that do that. They'll have at the end announcements, and that's where councils can talk about goings on in the community.
So that would be perhaps adding an item after new business and before adjournment.
Exactly. Just a suggestion. I defer to you both, particularly you, Rick. You've been doing this a lot longer. I would
love to see it happen because I'm sick of listening to it during the meeting.
Yeah. Well, I defer to you. You've been doing this longer. I can throw it out on the floor.
No, it's our job to make a recommendation to the full council. And I would like to do the work here.
Okay.
The heavy lifting here. It's supposed to be that the heavy lifting is supposed to happen during committee meetings.
Yep.
Well, I think.
However, sometimes people grandstand and they make the decision that they want to bring it out during the full council meeting because they have this feeling that people are not watching the committee meetings and they would be watching the council meetings.
Agreed.
Right. So,
Yeah, I think if we agree with it, I mean, we have, it's not coming out this week.
Yeah.
We have a full week before it would come out of committee.
And we need to give the counselors and just tell them there have been some change. I think we should certainly let people know, like, okay, there's a couple of changes. Here's what they are from the last meeting. But that was on my mind. So that's one thing. If you guys agree, that's awesome.
I agree.
I agree too.
Yeah.
So I'll make a motion that we add a new item 13 under 5-1.2
Yep.
titled announcements. So in between new business and adjournment, there'll be a new item titled announcements.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
It is so.
Okay. If I may, a couple of other things, perhaps more controversial.
Yep, I'm just trying to pick notes because I have to do my minutes,
And again, I throw these out to you both for consideration only, and I respect your experience. You may see things differently. I've been frustrated by the use of the charter objection and the motion to reconsider as found in the charter. It's my opinion that I'll start with the charter objection. That the charter objection, and I've seen this in other cities and towns, that it should be made prior to or at the call of the vote. That is, you shouldn't be able to wait until you know the vote and then drop a charter objection before the vote is called. Do you understand what I'm saying? So if you know you've lost,
Yeah.
again, disagree if you want, shoot me down, but it's very confounding when people wait for the vote. And then I think you should call it earlier. I've seen other bodies do that. I defer to your opinion on that matter.
Well, now you're discussing a hidden political maneuver of the municipal council that's rarely discussed in public. And
Yeah.
I will tell you that when the president sets the seating on the horseshoe,
Yeah.
the people that he puts at the end of the horseshoe are people that he can rely on to follow his political agenda, because they are oftentimes the deciding vote along with the president. Unfortunately, the charter objection is set in the charter, and the city solicitor's opinion is that a last voting council can charter object before the vote is announced, because that's the way it's written in the charter.
Yep.
So the charter needs to be rewritten, and that involves a charter commission.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that means the whole charter has to be done at once through a very laborious, intense process, which
fair enough.
Current mayor is not eager to.
Yeah.
So
and nor do I think it warrants it, Rick. I would hope that people, I get the whole strategy part of it, but I'm just not that.
It's dirty politics.
That's not how I think it was intended, but that's just my opinion.
I agree. It's not the way it was intended, but it's the way it's being abused.
Right. And so similarly, if I could refer to the council reconsideration movement in the charter, which came up recently, there is language in there, as I mentioned before, that says it can be made by any member entitled to make such motion. As you may know, Rick, generally speaking, under Robert's rules and similar rules, a motion to reconsider is most commonly allowed and made by a member on the prevailing side, not the losing side.
Correct.
We've been down this road 1,000 times.
Okay, but I think this, I'm just stating my case for the record that language, by any member entitled to make such motion, I think is a door, a possible opportunity for in the rules to define what that means. So the member entitled to make the motion is the member who's on the prevailing side. That's all I'm saying. It's not defined anywhere. But
well, it is, because we define that we are basically following Robert's Rules of Order unless they conflict with the charter.
Okay. All
Which
right.
I think that one does, because Robert's rules says it has to be made by the prevailing side.
Correct.
And we don't do it like that.
Yeah. Thank you, Laura. I think this would be more of a contentious change, but this too, I don't think is in the spirit of how it's intended, because it gives you two bites at the apple.
So let me do
If you
a little,
lose, you move to reconsider and you get another shot, so.
well, let me find reconsider. Hold on.
Thank you, Laura.
Okay. It just popped up in section 5.
Yeah, and maybe these are rare enough.
6-2.4 on page 17.
Of the book that we use, Rick?
The one we're talking about right now. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, my book's in the chamber.
That's on mayoral reconsideration. Oh, here's your problem.
Yeah,
2-9.4. 2-9.4 is on page 7. And 2-9.4B says motions for council reconsideration pursuant to Charter, Article 2, Section 9E. So that takes it out of the Robert's Rules of Order and into the Charter.
fine, but again, that language entitled to make such a motion still has some meaning, or it wouldn't be in there. And as I argued before, I think the charter was drafted within the context and the existence of Robert's rules at the time. But again,
So how about we do this? Motions for council reconsideration by a member of the prevailing side pursuant to Charter Article 2, Section 9E.
yeah, we could certainly try. We'll see how it goes. But
All right, so let me put that in the form of a motion.
what do you think, Laura?
Section 2, what? Where are you?
2-9.4. 2-9.4
Yep.
B.
Yeah.
B. Did you find it, Laura?
Yep.
Motions for a council reconsideration by a member of the prevailing side pursuant to Charter Article 2, Section 9E.
Yeah, but we have to look at the charter and see what the Article 2, Section 9E says.
I believe that the charter is not specific as to whether or not the motion reconsiders from the prevailing or the losing side.
No, it just says any member entitled to make such motion. And there's a comment from, I think it's Jim in the chat. If I may I read the chat, Rick? I don't know if you can see it. Laura, do you see it?
Yeah, I've got the chart right here.
Okay.
Hold on. Let me pull it up. A
The controversy
motion.
came about because the city solicitor gave an inquiry.
Motion reconsider. Any motion except adjourn, suspend, rules lay on the table. Limit debate, lay on the table, postpone indefinitely. May interrupt? Yes. Will first be recognized? No. Requires a second? Yes. Debatable? Yes. May be renewed? No. Motions apply. It doesn't say prevailing side. So it should go into 2.9.
Rick,
If we're
did
going
you
to
read
include it.
Jim's comment?
What's that, Laura?
Did you read Jim's comment in the chat
Oh,
here on Zoom?
boy, you're really testing my capabilities.
All
right, I got it here. Yeah.
I feel like I feel like I remember this, but
there is a precedence.
Yeah. Maybe it's not worth the trouble, but I just thought maybe we could get it in
Wait
there.
a minute. No, I don't care if there's a precedence. If we're writing the rules and we decide to change the rules, can't we overcome a precedence?
should we make it as an amendment? So that way vote on an amendment? Or are we just gonna throw it all in there in one big pile of new procedure?
Well, the minutes of this meeting are going to outline the changes that we're making in this meeting. So if anybody wants to see what we did, it's going to be spelled out in my minutes because that's the law.
Yeah.
The job that we have as a committee is to make recommendations to the council. And since the rest of the council's not here and they were invited, and there's no member of the public here and they were invited, I think we should do our job. Now, the issue of precedence, I'm not a lawyer, so I
Yeah.
can't tell you whether or not, if there is a precedence, that someone writes rules of procedure and there's a change in the rules of procedure that is different from precedence,
Yeah.
who prevails?
Well, I mean, precedent's generally used in the legal sense is, when a court has issued an order or generated a rule, that's what you're expected to follow because it's issued by a court. I don't know that the same obligation applies in this instance in a solicitor's opinion, but I could be wrong. I don't know. Of course, anytime you veer from prior practice, you want to make sure you have a very good explanation for it because, there's an expectation that things will continue the way that they are. But I don't know that you're stuck with a bad decision. I don't know.
So our explanation is that that's Robert's Rules of Order.
That's what I would say.
So I say we go for it.
I mean, it may die on the floor, but what do you think, Laura?
I don't know. I don't know. I agree with it
Yeah.
in practice. I'm wondering if we did an amendment on the floor. I just feel like doing it this way could be perceived not in a good light for us.
Yep.
I don't know if anybody agrees with that comment, but
no, it's fair. It's fair. This could be controversial. And you know what? Maybe it happens so rarely it's not worth even changing. I don't know. It sticks in my craw, but you could say, look, it only happens now and then. So I don't know. That's why I was hoping to run it by you both, but I don't know. Maybe it's not a big deal. Maybe it's not.
Well, Councilor DeSimone, the one that sticks out most in my mind was Jonathan Waite. And this was before your time.
Yeah.
And there was a very controversial vote on the farmers market. And it was such a horrible municipal council meeting. I asked Jim Jones to make a CD so that I could enshrine it in posterity. It was the worst meeting that I think I've attended.
Wow.
I sent it to my brother up in New Hampshire and he said, "Why are you doing this?"
So, and was it used in properly? Because that was before my time, Jonathan Waite, too.
In that case, he did it correctly. He was on the prevailing edge, and you wouldn't think that something like a farmer's market would be politicized and controversial, but it was, and it was intense, and I mean it was highly polarizing. And I want to stick to Robert's Rules of Order as close as we can, and I want to see the council change 2-9.4B to the prevailing side to stay in accord with Robert's Rules of Order. And I want to recommend to the council that they should do that.
So the question is, how do you want to recommend it? I mean, we could discuss, because we still have to bring this out of committee. We still need to discuss it in committee, which maybe the full council will be there at the time, maybe missing one or two. But I would feel more comfortable doing it that way, even though I do realize this is a public meeting. Everybody was invited. And I don't necessarily know if the rest of the council would fight us on it. I just feel like we're kind of doing it as a dark of night, even though it's completely above board.
Right. That's
I
fair,
would
Laura.
say that all of the changes made by Jeremy Denley, the changes made by Heather Parika, the changes made by Todd Kobus, the changes made by, I'm trying to think of who else had a major contribution to this rules of procedure. Me. You could say that about all of us, Laura. You know, because it was always a meeting of 4 people or 3 people. And I was saying earlier tonight before you signed on that anytime you have a big wordy document going up in front of the council, some of the councilors don't remember all the portions of the copy, and some of the councilors maybe didn't read it, and some of the councilors may have formed an opinion about that document before they actually read all the details in the document. And this rules of procedure is exactly that. It is the victim of the fact that it is going to govern the way the municipal council behaves. And the intent was to elevate that behavior to a more austere body, whereby those trying to run a meeting in the council had a firm platform of success to be able to run a meeting well. That was what's behind the very beginning of this, that a lot of councils get elected and suddenly they're a committee chairman and they don't know Robert's Rules of Order and they don't know how the meeting is supposed to be run. And by giving them a format better than what we had, it was hoped that we would be able to improve the performance of the councilors. Now, maybe that's pie in the sky,
Yeah.
because people will be people.
Rick, I have to say, I agree with everything you just said, but I also agree with Laura. I don't want anybody to think, even if it's a baseless, that this was somehow, I don't want to be sneaky. I don't want anybody to come away and think we're trying to pull over one. So how can we? And I understand what you're saying. If they're paying attention, they'll know. But at the same time, how can we make it clear that this has happened? Like in the committee, will we go over this meeting at our next committee meeting?
I think that's an excellent idea. Councilor DeSimone, what do you think about this? I do these minutes. I'm putting in the prevailing. I'd like to get your vote to put in the prevailing. Then generate a PDF document to the members of the committee and the president of the council only. And attach to it the minutes of the meeting so that you can see what we changed. And then have another meeting next month. This thing's been going on for 4 years. What's the rush?
Yeah. That's true. That's true.
Another meeting where we're all together and we can see the final document. So we're all in the same book. And then at that time, vote to accept the revisions to the municipal rules and procedures and send it out to the council for their consideration. Does that make sense? Laura, would you be more comfortable with that?
Yeah, I agree with that. So as of right now in this committee meeting, we're just doing all the legwork and we're not voting these rules and procedures out, correct? Because
Correct.
we're going to make it so we have another committee meeting, so there'll be more people and we can maybe discuss it further. That's what you're saying, correct?
I'm saying 2 meetings out. So tonight we made changes to 5-1.2. We talked about the job objection. We talked about the motion to reconsider. We made changes to 2-9.4 on the prevailing side to reconsider. And we generate a PDF that is the official 2021 edition of the rules and procedures. We circulate that to ourselves to give it some thought over the next month. And then next month we meet again and It'll be during the committee meetings on television, during all the other meetings that we say, look, we're getting to the point where we're going to be ready to vote out the rules of procedures. I don't think we need to circulate. I don't think we need to. Well, maybe we do. Maybe we need to circulate the draft document that's going to be up for approval in advance before the committee approves it.
What's the
Agreed.
downside?
Yeah, so they can have an opportunity to chime in and hammer it out in the committee meeting before it goes to the full council. That's the way it should be done.
Yeah, I think Laura's right. We give everybody every opportunity to read
Yep.
it and know about it. I think that's the right way to go.
Yep,
And-
hammer it out in the committee meeting.
And Rick, I don't know if you I heard you saying the changes, but you also have 5-1.2 in the order, right?
Yeah, we
We
added a
added-
number. We added an item before adjournment. That's
Right, so
announcements.
13 will be announcements, and then 14 will be adjournment.
Correct.
Yep.
Correct. All right, so that'll be the procedure. We will.
I mean, I'm certainly not trying to drag this on. I'm just trying to.
No, I think
Yeah.
you're right, Laura. It's in the spirit, right? We're not the spirit of this is that everybody knows and is aware of these things. That's ideally what we want, right?
Yes. Yes. All right. So I'm going to generate a PDF to the council, to the committee. We're going to have another committee meeting, and we're going to discuss the changes that we've made, and we will circulate the final draft to all council members. And we'll have another committee meeting for the council members to comment on the changes that we've made to the rules and procedures.
So you're looking at the 25th of May.
Oh, we're going into the summer. This won't happen until November.
Why?
November.
Well, because you've got 2 meetings in July and August.
What, Rick, listen, we have tomorrow, we have full council. The 11th, we have committee. We can
Yep.
discuss it then, send out the full amendments, because we don't have a ton of amendments to work on. That's full committee. We have full council the 18th. We could vote it out of committee on the 25th.
May
I say
25th.
we
Yeah.
go for it. May.
Yeah. Let's wrap it up.
So you think May 25th is when we send everybody the final draft PDF for discussion during the
No.
25th during the committee meeting?
Tomorrow's the 4th, we have full council.
Yep.
The 11th, we have committee.
And that's when
Right.
we have the PDF to the committee members.
We chit chat about everything, blah, 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 blah. Between the 11th and the 18th, we send it out.
Okay.
Everybody has 2 weeks till the next committee meeting to review it. The 25th is the next committee, and that's it. And then we vote it out on the May 25th.
Okay.
How's that?
Thank you, Laura.
Get that down.
Let's do it.
I
Thank
think
you,
you're
Laura.
being very optimistic that the councils will read and study this document between May 11th and May 18th.
That's okay, Rick, as long as we
Well, they
afford
have
them the
to-
opportunity.
They have till the 24th.
Correct.
Technically, they have 2 weeks.
Yep.
And it's not that big.
That's a great
big-
read. You can curl up with this
Right.
under a blanket.
To get the melatonin, just read this.
Hey,
Really, though. It's
we
not
like
that big.
Yeah.
And, and I think 2 weeks is good warning, a good
Yeah.
time limit. It's not
It's
like
fair.
it's like the budget that they
Yeah.
have to read or
Yeah.
something crazy.
You know, I don't see this as boring as all. I mean, I don't see this as putting people to sleep. This is serious. It's and it's well done. It's well done.
Yeah, and it's not that big. And people have been working forever on this. So, I think this is a short read. This is nothing. I have full confidence
Yeah.
in this council to get
Yeah.
through this.
and a lot of it is unchanged. I mean, there are substantial changes in some parts, but a lot is unchanged. You know what I
Right.
mean? So,
I think we can do it.
All right. That's what we'll do.
Woo!
We'll generate the PDF, and at our committee meeting 5/11, we will discuss the changes that we've made and announce that we're going to vote it out of committee on the 25th
Up.
and circulate it to all members after that meeting so that they have between the 11th and the 24th to look at it. And we'll vote it out of committee on the 25th and get it up to the council for June, the first meeting in June.
And Jim
And-
Jones just made a great point in the chat, which I think is it's a good idea that Laura had to move it up.
We're voting on the 940 CMR tomorrow.
A fourth member.
The mayor is authorizing it tomorrow.
Right. I think Jim is referring to the
So the
ability of
language. in-
counselors to be remote after August 1st.
Right, what section is that? He's talking about the language of like the parameters of being remote. Yes, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, so the mayor's adopting that, but our,
Ah, I see Jim's
Our,
point.
our parameters for being remote are in here.
yes,
They
are
need
in
to
here.
be up.
Yes.
Okay,
agreed,
well, I
yes.
think we can
Thank
do
you,
that.
Jim.
Yeah,
I think we can do that.
thanks,
Yeah.
Jim. You're a great committee member.
No, that's good incentive to get it done right there.
Yeah, I think we can get it done.
Jim, you do your job very well.
Thank you, Jim.
Thank you, Jim.
Indeed.
I think that's it. You guys have anything else you want to talk about?
No, I think we're
thank you.
good.
Good
I think
meeting,
we
Rick. Good
made-
meeting, Laura. Thank you.
Yeah, I think we had a good, yeah. And we're going for May 25th. That's a day.
This has been
And we'll
quite a
wrap it
marathon.
up.
Yeah.
It has been quite a marathon. I cannot tell you how much I appreciate your contribution,
Oh,
because a lot of people would just walk away from this. Thank you both very, very, very much.
good
Thank
work.
you.
Sincere. I mean it.
Good
No,
work.
thank you, Rick.
I'll make a motion to adjourn. All in
Second.
favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you both.
Thanks, Laura. Thanks, Rick.
Have a nice
Good
evening.
night. Bye.
Good night.